Where should you get your gear from? Do you need to do dungeons? Do you need to do raids? Do you just need to quest or do hunts or world events or invasions or... Man, there's so many things to do in Dragonflight because you do need gear. Whether you are a casual player that just likes to cruise it along and have some fun, or maybe you're the hardcore beast that needs a best in slot stat on every piece of ring that he or she has, well, there's something for everyone. And since the Dragonflight expansion is live and we're actually getting our greedy little fingers into it and it's so good and I've been waiting for so long, then we do need to talk about how to get those big ass swords to save the dragons or kill the dragons, and maybe some powerful magical trinkets while we're at it. Stay tuned, bookmark this video because we will be talking about gearing in Dragonflight and what you should do. And, you know, other things that you should do. If you like the content and you want to support us a little bit more, check the Patreon platform with the link down in the description below the video. It goes directly into our Patreon page and you will be able to see a bunch of tiers and stuff that you might be interested in, and it will definitely support us directly into doing this content on a daily basis with more videos to come, more guides and more coverage on different things Dragonflight. And we would super love you for it. Thank you so much. You make all of this possible. And let's talk about gearing. First of all, we need to talk about quest rewards. If you have leveled already and you dinged 70, you might have gathered a whole bunch of gear from questing. If you are still not 70, if you haven't even reached 60, then you should watch our leveling guide after you finish this video right here. As you approach 70, your eye level will start to be around 320, 330, depending on how diligent you have been with your quest rewards, making sure you spread out your items across as many slots as possible, maybe even augmented your gear with a dungeon or two. There isn't much to say here since everyone levels in their own way, and it's unlikely you will not get gear by completing the quests, unless you are Weird Joe that just grinds mobs and ignores cities. That's okay, Joe. Cities are reluctant to accept your quirkiness also. Poor Joe. Hope he watches this video. Professions have changed in Dragonflight. It's a whole new world of crafting and specializing in different areas depending on what you want to master. With that in mind, if you opted for something like blacksmithing, leatherworking, or tailoring, you'll be able to craft decent items on your character even as you level. The item level starts with 306. And as you get your profession up, it will reach all the way up to 418, depending on crafting quality and such. Professions as a whole are looking to be more integral to our gaming experience, albeit a tad more tedious to master. But hey, maybe you have the dough to buy the crafted gear instead. Either way, the eye level you will expect will be in that range. World bosses haven't seen any changes that you should be aware of. They are still active one at a time, changing every reset. You can only loot them once per week, but can kill them as many times as you want. Joe, talking about you, man. Once is enough, dude. Just go do some dungeons. Speaking of, dungeons are the more obvious source of good gear at decent eye level. Although you can partake in the wonders of the caves and, plains, you are best to do them once you reach 70. Depending on your expertise and comfort, the normal dungeons award 346 eye level gear, which is decently above what you will already have from simply questing. Heroic gets you 359 at level, with Mythic dungeons rewarding 372. Normal dungeons and Heroics can be spammed for as long as you have internet access and subscription time. Mythics too will be similar to raids and world bosses, with loot being available once per week. After that, you will need to wait for the reset, or better yet, brave the adventures of Mythic Plus as they become available. The eye level scale from 376 from a +2 dungeon all the way up to 405 from a 19 and 20. And as always, the weekly vault will have slightly higher eye level rewards, going from 382 for a +2 completed in time, all the way to 421 for a +20. Obviously, you would factor in the functionalities of the vault system, having multiple choices to pick from depending on the number of dungeons completed. To keep it short and sweet, the more dungeons you do at the higher key level possible, the better the gear will be when you have to pick your ideal item piece. Getting gear is well and good, but what about Valor? If you were wondering if it stays, it does, and rejoice! If you just came back to the game after a long hiatus, you might have missed the Valor system being reintroduced in Shadowlands. Essentially, doing Mythic Plus dungeons and finishing them will reward you with the Valor currency. Until further notice, Mythic Plus is the only source of Valor that we know of, but wouldn't be surprised if they introduce alternative sources of farming for this. Although they will likely keep Mythic Plus as the most efficient source of Valor since that's where it is intended to be used. Either way, so long as your item that dropped in the dungeon or in the vault is below item level 415, you can use Valor to upgrade it. Until rank 6 or item level 392, it doesn't require anything from you except the actual item and the currency. If you want to upgrade it to rank 7 and up, you will need Mythic Plus rating, which is the score that you get by default when completing different dungeons, same as we had in Shadowlands. The score you get will be tied to that dungeon, whether it is on Tyrannical or Fortify week, these being the affixes that rotate every other week, and also tied to the level of the dungeon key completed. You cannot get score for the same dungeon on the same difficulty with the same weekly affix twice, so you would want to go through all of them at increasingly higher difficulty each time to get more and more rating. To get the item to max rank, which is 13 coinciding with the 415 item level, you need upwards to 2400 rating. As for the cost of each upgrade, it differs based on item type of the gear piece you are looking to augment. Shields, offhand, cloaks and jewelry will cost 250 per rank, going up to where the weapons will bleed you dry of Valor, with two-handed weapons eating up 1000 Valor points per upgrade rank. The extent to which you can farm these will be strictly reliant on you and your means. The raid will release on the week of December the 12th, with normal, heroic and mythic difficulties being available all at the same time. LFR will appear the following week, with one wing becoming available each week until all three are playable. As for the gear rewards, this time around the raid will have a slightly different gearing system when it comes to item level, which will have the full range from 376 to 424 across all 4 difficulties. Each difficulty will have 3 main item level markers depending on how far into the raid you are. LFR will reward 376 gear all the way to 385 item level gear, with the normal item level ranging from 389 to 398, heroic from 402 to 411, and finally mythic starting at 415 and going up to 424 item level. Each difficulty will have 3 tiers of eye level that you can gear from, with yet another type of gear called unique drops. This has been announced as an experiment, which would mean that it will see future changes or maybe even taken out completely. As it stands, unique drops are a response from feedback the devs got on special gear that people enjoyed in Shadowlands, like the Sylvanas daggers for rogues, the Gallop from the Jailer, and so on. Certain bosses in the Vault of the Incarnates, which is the new raid we get, will drop these unique items that will be at around 6 item levels higher than the rest of their respective loot tables. Eranog and Diurna will drop a special pair of rings. The Primal Council will drop the Whispering Incarnate Icon Trinket for all of the classes that get stronger the more people have it. And lastly, Razageth, the last boss, will drop a special bow for hunters, obviously. It sounds a bit much, and I guess from a point of view it can be a bit much, but it might just be something you don't think about. Kill the boss, loot it, if the drop is cool, awesome, if not, move on. The upside of this system is that it has the possibility of having variety and replayability, having items that are a bit more interesting than just raw stat sticks. Lastly, for the vault rewards, it will be the same as in Shadowlands. The items will have their eye level appropriate to what they have in the raid, depending on the difficulty of the boss killed. Also, once you have killed a specific boss, it gets added to the loot table that the vault will pick from. This means that later down the line, you can clear the raid at the same difficulty and not have to kill said boss, and you can still get loot from said boss. As an example, if you kill heroic difficulty Razageth, the vault can give you a 411 item level gear piece. If 2 weeks later your group only kills the first few heroic bosses, your vault can still include a 411 item level item from Razageth. Hope this is clearer now. Primalist invasions are a new type of event that happens in Dragonflight. Entering the invasion zone, you can notice an obelisk on the ground which reveals the type of invasion: air, fire, earth, or water. By our powers combined, I am Captain Flammet! The mobs here drop Elemental Overflow, a currency that can be turned in for gear in Valdrakken, which will be handy especially at the beginning of the expansion before the raid opens and the first Mythic Plus and PvP seasons begin. Mithresa and Valdraken will sell you 359 item level gear for Elemental Overflow. You can farm an unlimited amount of Elemental Overflow each week when Dragonflight Season 1 starts. The item cost depends on the item slot, with cloaks, bracers and belts costing 200, shoulders, gloves and feet costing 350, helms, legs and chest pieces costing 500, and weapons costing 800 Elemental Overflow. You can also buy a mount from her, the Stormhide Salamander, for 2000 Elemental Overflow. Primalist Invasions mobs also drop quest items which can be redeemed for 1 Storm Sigil each. While you can farm an unlimited amount of Elemental Overflow during an invasion, you can only get 1 Storm Sigil. With 4 invasion types, you'll get a maximum of 4 Storm Sigils per week. Storm Sigils can be exchanged for more powerful Primalist infused gear with item level 385. Here, the item cost also depends on the item slots, and you can buy the gear from Refleshly in Valdraken. Do you love the Tuskar? Or maybe you are more of a Centaur fan? Either way, both these factions will have their own events that act as scenarios, and you can see them on the map when they start. For the Iskara feasts, you will basically contribute to the Tuskar soup by doing all sorts of tasks, and at the end you will get, among other things, items all the way up to 372 item level. Similar to soups, the hunt for the Moruk Centaurs will have you hunt down stuff. You'll also have a pet with you to assist in this endeavor with its own talent trees and abilities. At least that you kill during this event can drop 356 item level gear and much more. Although not really events, world quests still give decent gear if you are interested. The item level range is from 356 to 379, and it can be a good way to get some easy gear before hopping into endgame content. To unlock them, you have to finish the Making a Name quest after completing the story and be at least level 68. There are 2 sources of PvP gear if you are so inclined. The one bought with honor, which is the more common way to get from doing regular PvP content, arenas, battlegrounds, war mode even, will start at item level 340 going all the way to 366 in PvE, but as we had in Shadowlands, its item level will be boosted automatically to 411 in PvP content. And of course, with conquest points, you get 382 eye level gear that gets boosted to 424 in actual PvP content. This is to not incentivize PvE players to farm PvP gear and vice versa. If you like to crack some skulls, you can get the gear to do it. Given all the above mentioned sources, what we recommend is that in the first week of the expansion release, you do the world quests, farm the Primalist Invasion for gear and buy vendor gear as well, gain the profession knowledge if you plan on leveling a profession, and then farm heroic dungeons until your gear is good enough for Mythic 0 dungeons. Having done all of this, you should go and clear all 8 available dungeons on Mythic 0. As the raid release approaches, you'll get more sources for higher item level gear. Continue doing the world quests, professions and world events, even Mythic 0, so on and so forth, and in the week of the raid release, on top of all of this, don't forget to do the world boss. There are 4 world bosses on a weekly rotation, just like in Shadowlands, and try to clear the content that interests you. You'll have Mythic Plus available, so you can do up to 8 dungeons for the Great Vault, but also normal, heroic and mythic difficulty of the raid will be available, so you can clear as much as you and your guild friends are able to clear, thus opening up Great Vault raid slots as well, giving you way more gear. Not to mention, it's also ideal to stack armor types to increase the chances that you will get the gear that you would want if this is a possibility to go for, which is something probably guild people will have more options to do. And me as an evoker main, I will like a lot of male people, but there are no male tanks, so yeah, it's not gonna be ideal. But that pretty much covers the main sources of gearing. I don't know if we've missed anything. There's probably one thing, and if that one thing that we missed is important, you can let us know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching the video, thank you for being awesome, and make sure to check our Patreon page once again. And if you want to support us a little bit more, there's a bunch of tiers that you can check and goodies that you can access. Thank you, patrons, for supporting the content currently, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.